it's a pleasure to have you here. Actually, I was just thinking about this, and so I think as far as like knowledge and expertise that you bring from your field, I think that for sure, I don't think it's you bring a lot of value that I haven't been able to bring to my audience. So great to have you here. Just for the record, kind of explain to people like your background. How long were you at Microsoft? 13 years.
Yes, 15 years at Microsoft.
15 years.
Yes.
Okay. And so how does a person from, Microsoft like yourself come and hold what you call the AI operating system for the fields? Like talk to me about how that story was born. Just give me a little bit of background about yourself.
Fantastic. For the audience, I'm Anand Subbaraj, founder and CEO at Zuper. I stay in Seattle. I lived in Seattle for about 21 years, worked at Microsoft for over 15 years. And at Microsoft, I had this interesting distinction of working on some very amazing products. There are two products that I want to call out. One product is used by over 1 billion users.
Wow.
Another product is making over $1 billion in revenue. And I have been used to starting new products, what are called as products that start from ground zero, V0 products, and then taking on industry leaders and making those products as leaders in the industry. That's what I have done in Microsoft. And while building at products at Microsoft, I learned how to build products at scale. And when I say products at scale, these are products that are used by billions of users, like I said, and products that take on industry leaders. But what I also learned at Microsoft is that the most insightful information comes from operators who are actually using the product. We sold the products to decision makers, the VP who was sitting in the boardroom and the conference rooms, but the actual insights came from the operator who are using the products.
Mm, love it. And so talk to us, what is a version 1 product?
Yeah, so version one product is something that you start from grounds up. A lot of people think that while you are at Microsoft, you are working at big products which are matured, like Windows, Office, Azure, and many others. But there are many, many products that are built in Microsoft from version one, meaning that there are no products that Microsoft have in that line. And we come up with a new product line. And just like a startup in Microsoft, you start with a founding team. They do, they incubate products in V0, validate the market, understand who would be the targeted customers, and then form a team to build that product. And usually, Microsoft gets into an industry or a product line that is already proven out there. Like in my case, I worked in two different products that I want to call out. One is an anti-malware product. There were industry leaders like Norton, McAfee, who were building anti-malware products. And Microsoft decided to get into that space. I joined one of those teams working on a very initial version of that product as a founding member of that product. Then you iterate on that product, you build the first version, then you build the second version, it keeps going into third or fourth version, and then eventually you take on the industry leader. And the anti-malware product that I built at that point in time in Microsoft is used by over 1 billion users at this point.
Wow. And how many of those products did you build, those version 1 products?
I built two of those.
Two of those.
Yes.
Wow. And so with that, experience and expertise, how does that translate into building the platform that you're building now with Zuper? How did that help you?
Exactly. So the idea of Zuper came in due to a terrible personal experience that I had while getting my refrigerator serviced. I didn't know about field service management while working at Microsoft, but I knew how to identify a problem and how to build a product to solve that problem. So when I had this experience of getting my refrigerator serviced, and that entire journey that I had, reaching out to customer support, many different technicians showing at my place to solve that problem. And eventually, about 8 weeks later, the problem got fixed. And I was thinking at that time, what does it take for this large organization to offer a better experience to its customers? In this age of Uberization of services, from ride hailing to food delivery, my experience getting an issue fixed on an appliance was just archaic and painful. That was when I got intrigued and curious about this space of field service management. I wanted to learn about this space, and the next several months I decided to go deep into this space, learn what are the problems that the industry is facing. That's how we created Zuper. Zuper means extremely super. And our mission was to enable organizations to transform their workforce into Zuper professionals and offer Zuper experience to their customers. And what was really important for us was to build a product that solves a real problem that is faced by both the service businesses, and because of that problem, consumers or end customers were feeling the pain. So this was a real problem at the right time, and we decided to take on that problem.
Wow, that's awesome. I remember hearing that, and again, I asked you if you were on podcast right before we started, and that's why I asked. I remember hearing it somewhere. There was a podcast that I listened to online when I was getting familiar with Zuper before we became a customer, and it said enabling field technicians to be Zuper professionals that give a Zuper experience. And the system is designed to enable a field technician instead of replacing one, right? And so people
Yes.
think that AI is going to replace jobs, where in some cases that might be true, but in this specific framework that you're building with this Zuper application, it's not to replace people, but it's to enable them to be able to give a better experience, right?
Absolutely. And AI is a hot topic. Every company is trying to become an AI company. And about 10 years back, while still at Microsoft, I remember working on AI products at that point in time. I was in the data organization in Microsoft in Azure Data. And what we were trying to do at that point in time is to enable enterprise customers to transform data into intelligence to drive actions. And at that point in time, machine learning and AI was very different than what it is right now. And with these advancements, the place that we are in today, businesses started with AI being an enabler. Now they are having AI perform work, and human being the supervisor of the work that is performed by AI. It is not replacing human, but human is taking an elevated role of being supervisors for the work that is getting done. And if I relate that to the roofing industry, roofing business owners are going to spend most time or more time in growing their business, in offering a great experience to their customers, rather than getting into mundane day to day activities that AI is going to do.
Yeah, 100%. And so taking it back a little bit, who are because roofing is new to you guys, right?
Yes.
How long have you guys been in the roofing space?
We started building a roofing product about 18 months back.
18 months ago.
Yes.
And you went officially live how long ago?
About 6 months back.
6 months ago. So
Yes.
very new.
Very new.
But Zuper has been around how long now?
Zuper has been around for 8 years.
8 years.
We have over 100,000 users in the platform. And this platform is used by Fortune 500 organizations like IKEA to manage their workforce. And there are a lot of other enterprise customers that have been using the product. We are a product or a company that is ISO 27001 certified and SOC 2 certified. What it means is that we follow the gold standard of data security, privacy, best practices. And in this world where everyone is talking AI again, like talking about AI, data privacy security is very, very critical. And to build a company that is already ahead of that game in terms of data security, privacy, and follow the gold standard, that is extremely critical at this point in time.
And would you say that IKEA is probably one of your biggest customers that you guys have now?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And so what all industries are you in? So I know that there's roofing. I know that you guys were, when Rogoff came down last time, you guys were onboarding a big HVAC contractor, correct?
Yes.
Right. So what other
Yeah.
industries like that are you guys in?
So 18 months back, earlier, like if you think about the initial versions of Zupa that we built, it was for horizontal field service management. What it meant is that any business that have people working on the field performing installation, maintenance, and repair, they could use our platform to schedule, dispatch, manage projects, work orders, manage assets on the field and so forth. So it was a horizontal field service management platform, and it targeted about any businesses that have people working in the field. So at some point in time, when I looked into the number of industries we were serving, it was 40 plus industries that we're serving. And we decided to switch to roofing because, um, number one, because one of our customers, and I think JT came here, JT from Maven,
Hmm.
it was a wonderful podcast that you did with
Hmm.
him.
Yeah.
He was the first customer that reached out to us saying, Anand, I have been looking into roofing CRM for many years. I have used or switched 5 different roofing CRMs. And now I have started looking outside the roofing vertical to see what else exists out there. And that's how I came into Zuper. And he reached out to me saying that Zuper has a huge potential and whether we were willing to collaborate with him to build something specific to the roofing industry.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna paint it. So I'm asking this question strategically because I want people to understand, the framework of last time that you guys came down of what I said is, man, you guys should be pushing Zuper listens. And so what you guys went through a round of funding, correct? The last round of funding, and that would be, I'm very not familiar with tech, so it's called a Series B funding, correct? And so what does that mean? What does Series B funding mean to a company like you?
Yeah. So we have raised about $46 million so far from top tier investors. Fuse Ventures, they are based out of Seattle. They are one of the top VCs in the area. They are the lead investors in our company. Peak 15, which was Sequoia earlier, Sequoia in India, they are also an investor. HubSpot and Zendesk are also investors in Zuper. We raised Series B. What it essentially means is that the startup has established product market fit. We have paying customers, and we are on a scaling journey with the company.
Gotcha. And so what is that next step for you guys?
So at this point in time, the goal is to continue scaling and growing the business. Like I said earlier, we were horizontal field service management. Now we are catering to only service businesses, specifically roofing. We also have HVAC electrical plumbing companies. Some of the top HVAC electrical plumbing companies in the country use Zuper, but our focus is truly on the roofing vertical. We call it roofing and exteriors because we have seen, a lot of roofers, they also do siding, gutter, windows, and doors. So our goal is to be the platform of choice, the AI operating system for roofing and exterior services.
Yeah, amazing. And so the reason why I asked that is because I think it is pretty inspiring to me to understand that you yourself, the CEO and founder of a company like this, who came from the Microsoft campus, is now hopping on roofs like we were just doing a few hours ago in this heat, and in Texas and in Wilmington, North Carolina, on a, what was it, a 1012 roof that you guys were on with Seth the other day. So like you went from the Microsoft campus and now you're on the field. And so tell me a little bit about the mindset about why are you on hopping on roofs, right? You have this, you have great leaders in your business, you have a great business platform, you have a great strategy. What's the mindset behind you getting on these roofs?
Absolutely. Great question. We are trying to build a customer obsessed culture in the company. And I truly believed always, since I have ever started building products, that the best products are built not from the conference rooms or boardrooms, but it is built when the builder or the founder lives the life of the customer.
Hmm.
And you talk to almost every software provider, they would say that they are trying to build a customer obsessed culture. But saying that and doing it, there is a difference. And we wanted to make it a tops down approach in our company. Every leader in the company is required to spend time with the customers. Seth, who is our CRO, he spends a lot of time with our customers. Raghav, who is our CTO and a co founder, he spends a lot of time with our customers. And every leader in the company is supposed to spend that time with the customers. Over the years, I have spoken to close to 1,000 customers of the platform. And in the last few months, since we started thinking about roofing, I've spent a lot of time talking to roofers, both in the back office and on the field on the roof, just like what we did earlier today. It is inspiring and exciting to see the work that gets done on the field by our customers. What it also enables is to validate our assumptions and to keep us honest, because when we are on the field, we understand the constraints encountered by the businesses, by the users who are going to use the platform. And we understand the expectations of the customers very well. It's not about being a nice founder, it is about building the right product. And that is very, very critical for us. And every decision and actions that happens in the company is based on customer feedback. You coined Zuper Listens. You told us about like how good we are in listening to our customer feedback. And we take it very seriously in the company. And you may have seen, being one of our early adopters, how fast we are evolving the platform. And I'll tell you that in the last 3 months, we have released over 100 features in the platform. And these are features, these are enhancements, these are feedback that we have received from our customers. No other company in the roofing software vertical today offers this kind of agility in terms of listening to customers, understanding their feedback, and catering the product to address those feedback.
I love it. Yeah, and for the audience, some context. This isn't just a cold interview. Matter of fact, I'll give you some background. Is that we were using a different CRM in the roofing industry, and we had no issue with the CRM at the moment. But when we found out about what Zuper had to offer, we also had to be forward thinking with not where we're at today, but where our business was going to be down the road. And for me, that was making a big decision, switching CRMs in peak season so that we can make those steps in making a greater experience, not just for our customers, but being able to grow and scale with better efficiency. And so, because of the system, we've been able to scale, and we haven't added a single employee in the back office, admin, operations, operational support since we've been with Zuper. And I got on a call with Seth and JT, who we had on the podcast. Let's see, that was in February. And matter of fact, after that podcast with JT, that next day we were on a plane to India to visit Zuper at their headquarters in Chennai, there in India. And that was where I also got to see how everything gets put together, from the product team to the customer success to the engineers, and how hard they work. It was really awesome to see the hours and the commitments that they make because they believe in the product. And so, seeing you, we didn't get to see you much because you were sick at that time, but you
Yeah.
were there. And then now being able to see you here, this is the second time that you visited. You visited once, and that was 5 6 months ago, and now this is your second visit. Seth has visited me 3 times, and Raghav, the CTO and also co-founder, yeah, he also has came down twice since then. And so it's amazing, with the and because of that, we've also gotten some insider access that a lot of customers don't get on beta products, with the Zuper glass, with I wouldn't say copies the meta glasses, but it brings that same idea of recording from the glasses, but now it's implementing it, throwing it into a job. So we've been able to see that, and everything with the Zuper Connect, Zuper AI responder, and now you guys have a product that you guys just released that's still in beta, I would say, and that is Zuper Sense, right? And so it's really awesome to be able to see that, because I'm also on a weekly call with Preeta and Dilith and Abby every single week. Tuesday at 10 a.m. we meet religiously because we're continuing. It's a partnership for us, right? This is something that we knew that was going to take a lot of work to bring to vision, and I tell people honestly, Zuper's not where it needs to be, but I tell you, it's so much better than when it was 6 months ago when we first launched, and it's going to continue to get better. Matter of fact, every Tuesday we strategically planned our meetings where I'm in a meeting with Zuper, back in India. my team is in a sales meeting. As soon as the team get out of a sales meeting, that is the same time that I'm finishing my meeting with the Zuper team. And now we have a meeting specifically after that in our conference room where we talk about all of the new updates that just went live on our account, because that's how fast things are changing. And so for some of my employees, sometimes that feels overwhelming, but it's just the rapid change that you guys are moving in. And so from, that exact perspective that I'm talking about, most CEOs of tech companies lead from boardrooms or Zoom meetings. And so here you are, on the rooftop, shaking hands with the customers. What is one thing that you have learned from being with the customers on site, on the roofs, that you wouldn't have been able to learn from a support ticket or from, your office, right? Like, what is one thing, I guess, that stood out the most from being around these roofers?
Yeah, I think the biggest learning that I have by spending all these time with the roofers is the sophistication of the business that the roofers run. I didn't realize how complex and sophisticated these businesses are and what kind of amazing job that roofers do being an essential service. I could never appreciate the kind of technical aspects in the roofing business. I thought roofing is all about, like, doing some inspections, performing the installation, doing the repair, very similar to some of the other industries that we served. But by spending the time, went into the technical details of how the measurements are performed, how the inspections are done, the actual installation of the roof. We went today to one of your commercial properties, the difference between residential and commercial properties. But all in all, the one thing that stood out is the sophistication of the businesses. A lot of times, if somebody is thinking about the roofing business, they think that it's mom and pop operations, but it is much beyond that. It is much more complex, it is much more sophisticated, and I think it's a great industry to be participating in and building a product for the future of the industry.
Yeah, no, amazing. I love that. And so, also with that, your about page, and I'm gonna read this is, it says field service isn't just software; it's people's homes, businesses, and real moments. We're on the rooftop and job sites with our customers, which is a true statement, right? So, as you do that, has there been a specific moment, since you started and you made the switch from Microsoft? I guess first of all, actually, let's take a step back from that. Is how hard was it to leave Microsoft to do this? Like, I mean, you've been there for 15 years, right? I'm assuming you liked it and you loved working with the people that you worked with. So how hard was that, first of all, to make the jump to say, hey, I'm leaving this job that probably you're really good at, you have a great relationship, you've built your resume there, life is probably comfortable at the time, and now you go into this unknown.
Yeah. Yeah, so I have always believed in taking risks. And the biggest thing of quitting Microsoft was, just like you mentioned, extremely comfortable out there, high paying job, and, having a history of building successful products at Microsoft. But when I started thinking about the problems that I was going to solve with starting Zuper, at that point in time, this passion of building something took over some of the complacency that I built over times because of the comfort that Microsoft provided. And I've done this all throughout my career. I like to break that comfort zone and try to take risks. And this was all about the appetite of risks taking. A lot of times people tell me that this is not the right time to take risk, but I have learned over years that there is no good time of taking risk. If you want to take a risk, if you're passionate about doing something, if you are having the conviction of building something, you should take the plunge and do it. And I did this during the pandemic. I think June 2020 is when I quit Microsoft, and it was amazing time at that point because uh, one thing was very clear, that after that, whatever that time was, it was a very difficult time for the world, but the normal at that time, or the new normal, was going to be every business wanting to digitize their operations and workflows, because if they did not do it, they would have been left much behind or would not exist. So that was the right moment, right time to take that plunge, take that risk, and wanting to build something on my own.
Yeah, and so you said that was in the pandemic, so that was 2020. So your son would have been 12 years old at the
Yeah,
time, right? When's his birthday? It was it's
it's tomorrow,
tomorrow, right?
12
So
June.
you're
Yeah.
here and then you're just driving right back to Seattle today.
Yes.
Yeah. So your son was 12 years old. So you also understood it wasn't just the risk, it was also you knew you were probably going to have to sacrifice a lot of these moments with his, I know that he's a great cricket player and stuff like that. You're going to have to be absent in some of these areas. Like, was that something true? Like, did you realize that,
Absolutely.
sacrifices with family was going to be a
Yes.
thing?
And when you mention about, like, what was it a difficult decision at that point? I think the biggest factor was convincing the family and the spouse. My wife has always been very supportive, and she was very supportive at that time as well. And it was important and critical that, I convinced the family that that was the right decision at that point in time. So obviously, with little kids, I have two kids, two boys, 12-year-old at that time and 7-year old. And to have that support from the family to take that plunge and to then, follow the passion, that was exactly the reason why I decided to quit and do what I wanted to do.
Yeah, yeah. Does your kid want to follow like your footsteps in the business, or does he have some different plans?
I think he's also following his passion.
Yeah.
I always believed in people following their passion, and my kids are doing the same. They are into sports, athletics, and both of them play cricket. It's one of the fastest growing sport in the country, and they have all my support to follow their passion.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. And so, has there, we talked about the sacrifices, we talked about the risk. Is there any stories on the top of your mind that you think of when I say like, was there any times that were very scary for you, maybe early on in the business, maybe not so much anymore, but or maybe there is, but early on in the business where you like really doubted yourself, or you really underestimated how hard this was going to be, or there was a moment where you're like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? Is there anything like that, or
Yeah.
has it always been, hey, like we're always forward thinking, we're gonna do this no matter what happens? Um,
Yeah, I'm a very insecure person, right? Like, every time I always think about, like, okay, what are the next uh, innovations that we need to bring? What is the next big thing in technology that we need to follow? Because we are living in this world, the last 7 years has been extremely disruptive.
yeah,
The first thing was the pandemic, where it disrupted the world, made people think through their lives, how they want to spend their life, how they want to run their business. Then, there were the economy was not going through a pretty major challenge. And over the last few years, AI has taken things to a different level. There is a lot of disruption in the last 7 years. And the disruption are seen mainly by entrepreneurs like me, because we have been building the product over the years, and with every disruption comes a point in time where you start questioning your existence. You start questioning what you have done to that point. You start questioning how you want to evolve. But what I truly believed all these years is that you don't want to get stuck at a place. You want to continue to evolve. That's where my insecurities come in, and it keeps me growing and evolving over years. And that is how we are running the company. We need everyone to have what we call as a growth mindset. We believe that every individual in the company needs to grow, needs to evolve, and needs to continue to learn. And this is what I do. I follow that practice, and we continue to learn, grow, and evolve into the best version of ourselves.
I love them. And there's a moment where I know, so I kind of want you to share this. Also going back to when you're on the roofs, and that's kind of your thought process behind that is you want to know and validate what's really going on. There is a moment specifically where you got off of a roof and you said, we need to fix that immediately. And I think that was when Zuper Glass was born, correct? So tell us a little bit more about that. And then what is Zuper Glass?
Yeah, interesting question. So, like I mentioned earlier, I truly believe in living the lives of our customers. And this was one of the early instances when I spent time on the roof with Maven, with JT and his team. And I was on the roof with the field sales rep and then with the crew. And what caught my attention was the fact that the sales rep was juggling through different tools. They had their harness, they had the equipments, they had the mobile phone, and they still had to balance themselves. Timing matters, safety matters. And what appeared was the fact that mobile phone may not be the right form factor when a person is standing on the roof and trying to do job site documentation, because there are so many things that they're juggling and they need to keep in mind of safety. They cannot fall, right? They need to have their hands available to balance and to prevent them from, falling and meeting with an accident. So once I got down from that roof, I started thinking, what is going to be that form factor that is going to enable the roofer to do all the work that they are doing without having to think through compliance and safety, but still providing that great customer experience, still running and growing the business, still closing that deal on the first day. And I started looking into various devices, started looking into, um, you know, uh, devices like drones, robots. But what caught my attention was two things. On the roof, what is important is voice and vision. Voice because they can dictate notes, and vision because what they are looking at is is the one that allows them to do the inspections, understand what's going on in the roof. And with that notion, we started building Zuper Glass. And it was not easy because we never had any experience with devices and wearables. We had to find a device partner. We looked into a lot of partners. We interviewed a lot of them. Then we found the right partner who was willing to build a device based on our requirements. And that was how the journey with Zuper Glass started. Zuper Glass enables hands-free experience for the roofer so that they can take job notes, perform inspections, collect photos, videos, all without the need to open their mobile app. And this enables roofers to be compliant, to manage safety, and like I said, have all the right information on the job site to close the deal on the same day.
I love that. Yeah, and I know that you guys came out with a version 1 and I think V2. You
Yes.
guys are working on V3.
Absolutely. So we had our version one, which was mostly an alpha version. Our goal was to get as much feedback as possible because, there are all these other smart glasses out there like Meta glasses and few others, but we were building a device, a wearable, a smart glass that is for a particular industry, for a vertical. And this was the first time that something like this was happening, that a smart glass was built for a particular industry, tailored for that industry. So, based on that learning that we received from our first set of customers, we started orienting the software and the hardware. We had to reach out to a hardware partner to customize the hardware based on our learnings. And we came up with V2. And with V2, not it is not just for job site documentation, but we are also bringing in what we call as live streaming or live view, meaning a field sales rep or a crew on the roof can do a live streaming of what they are watching to a back office expert. And again, the goal is to make sure that roofers can perform their job effectively without having to revisit the job site.
Yeah, I love that. And so, out of that, that's one of the products that you guys have. What's some of the products that you're most proud of, right? And that could be also maybe just talk about a little bit about Zuper Sense, like
Yeah.
what that is.
Yeah. So we are taking an AI leadership in the roofing industry. We are an AI native product, and it is not just bringing in AI native capabilities as pointed solution. We are building an AI operating system for the roofers so that it allows them to perform their end-to-end workflows from the first call to getting paid for the work that they do. And middle, to ensure that they do not have any friction all the way in the workflow. And the way we are thinking about the platform is that on the foundational pieces, we have the core operating system that provides different pipelines for the roofer: lead intake pipeline, inspection pipeline, production pipeline, and the revenue pipeline. On top of the core foundational pieces, we have different apps, which is Zuper Connect, which is our calling and texting app. Then we have a fleet management app, Zuper Pay for collecting payment. And on top of these, we have the AI agents that are performing the work. So at the bottom of the stack, we have the system of record. And then we are building the system of work, which is the AI agents performing work that humans are going to supervise. And in terms of the AI agents, we have the CSR AI agent. You have been using that. You have seen great results during storm surge. This is one of the core use cases for the CSR agent. We are building an account receivable agent or collection agent that will help businesses to improve their revenue collection. We are having a field agent that enables businesses or the field user to perform their job better. And there are other roster of agents that we are building in the next few months. But we needed something that brings them all together. And that was the genesis of Zuper Sense. Zuper Sense is the layer that monitors, analyzes, predicts, and recommends for the entire operation of the business. And it is not just monitoring what is going on within the walls of the business, it is also looking into external signals like reputation signal, whether the business is having good reputation, meaning whether they are getting the right reviews from the customers. Are the reviews going up or down? What are the weather signals that the business need to know? What are the permit signals? We are bringing all these data into Zuper Sense and enabling businesses to get all those insights in a proactive manner. Think of Zuper Sense as the chief of staff for the business owner. And one of the other things that we have learned over course of time is that business owners tell us that they already have a lot of data, internal data, external data, but they could not leverage those data and transform them into intelligence so that they could take actions. And that is exactly what we are trying to do with ZuperSense. It is an experience that is like Claude or ChatGPT for the roofers. They can interact with that in natural language, plain English. They can ask questions. It is going to provide the answers, but it is also giving predictions and recommendations. For example, say, Noe, one of the top questions or common questions that you may want to ask is, what are the invoices that are aging for your business? When you ask that question exactly that same way, ZuperSense is going to tell you that you have $250,000 of businesses that are aging across 15 customers. If you do not take an action right now, you are at risk of losing $50,000. And not just that, it is also going to tell you that you need to deploy the account receivable agent so that it improves your aging invoices and it helps you collect that revenue that you may be at risk of losing out. And there is no one else who is providing this kind of experience, not just in the roofing industry, but the entire home services industry.
Yeah, I agree. You mentioned the, AI responder and how that helps. We're a retail market, right? But we still get, major wind events like we did in December. But that would also help those people that are in a hail market more specifically, because hail hits and then the phones go crazy.
Yes.
And you went from having one person handling all these calls, 50, 60 calls a day, and then all of a sudden you're getting 1,000 calls a month,
Mhm.
right? And so there's also that if I call you because I have an emergency and you don't answer me, I'm just going right next to that person. And so that's also keeping right. And so that was true to us because in December of 2025, just last year, we had that big windstorm and you were walking it today. We're actually finishing up that product probably by middle of next week. And that call came from one of those windstorm events that ended up turning out what's going to be about $240,000 of revenue, right? And so that is very true there. And then now I'm very interested because I've heard about it. I just have so many things going on with Zuper itself of other priorities. You talked about, and it just perked my ears because I've always said the for me the biggest thing was the accounts receivable reports. The way that it breaks it down, the aging bucket gives you the 10 top most overdue invoices. It brings down the buckets and what's current, what's overdue, in the 30 bucket, 60 bucket, past 90 bucket. But now you're talking about an AI agent that collects revenue for you. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, fantastic. That is exactly the problem, by the way, that we are solving. Because what we have also learned from talking to all the roofers, that revenue leaks across the board, across the pipeline. There are places where it's leaking from the top of the funnel. But what is more impactful is when you perform the work and there are risks of revenue leakage. Exactly like you said, that there could be overdue of 30, 60, 90 days and invoices are aging. And we all know if it passes 90 days, there are risks of never being able to get that revenue back into the
Correct.
business. So, what we are building right now, and this is something that we'll be releasing shortly, is what we are calling as account receivable agent. And this agent can be deployed and it's going to remind customers on a cadence, reminding homeowners or your customers that you have a pending invoice and you have to pay this invoice. And it can provide payment links. It can keep reminding the customer until the payment is collected. And what we heard from a lot of business is that they find it extremely challenging to keep reminding the customers. And sometimes this becomes a mundane repeated work that needs to be done by someone, and that someone may not be there in the office, and it's a business administrator or back office user who's doubling up in that role other than doing everything else that they're doing. So what we are doing with this account receivable agent is, once you deploy this agent, you can set your knowledge base or configure the knowledge base based on your business. You can set guardrails of what the agent can or cannot do. You can define the cadence at which the agent needs to reach out to your customers. And once you have done all that config, and it's a very simple config that you would be able to do, or we can set it up for you. Once it's launched, it is going to start reaching out to the customer either via text message or emails or calls. And it'll keep reminding them until the payment is collected.
Wow, that is amazing. Yeah, that's again, I love money. So, especially when we've already done the work. And so that's one of the biggest frustrations as
Yeah.
an owner is, revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, but cash flow is reality. And sometimes, man, you can be a profitable company and still go out of business. And what I mean by that is you could be making money and being profitable on jobs, but if you have $400,000 that's out there that you cannot collect on and payroll is due today and vendors require payment today, then you are in a world of trouble. And I've been there from experience many, many times. And so that's something that's exciting to me. I think that that's not just something specific to my business. I think across the entire nation, I think roofing companies struggle with that, right? And so that's exciting. And so with one of the last questions that I kind of want to ask you is, I've always been saying it. I've been saying it for years. I've been saying it that soon enough, roofing companies are going to be tech companies,
Mhm.
right? Where do you see roofing companies being in 3 years, 2029, let's say? How do you see a roofing company operating? And what are the risks if you don't get on board with what's going on right now? What are the risks if you're a business owner that you see potentially happening down the road?
Absolutely. I think it's a great question. And I want to take a little bit of time to answer this because, um, you're giving me a responsibility of predicting what's going to happen. So, from my perspective, I feel that um, roofing businesses or the industry is going through a massive shift. And this shift is going to be twofold. One is technology shift, another is behavioral shift. On the technology side, I strongly believe that most of the roofing companies are going to transition from using fragmented tools into a data driven AI operating model. I think this is going to be the most critical change that is going to happen because we understood and learned that a lot of the roofing companies or majority of the companies are using fragmented, disconnected tools. They use CRM, they use job site documentation tools, they use estimation tools, calling tools, texting tools, and there are so many different tools. And in the legacy world, and when I use the term legacy, I'm not meaning 10 years before, I'm meaning like 2, 3 years before. You could live with all these disconnected tools because, like, obviously there is friction in connecting these tools, friction in running the business with all of these tools. But, you know, not many business owners cared about intelligence. But right now, every business owner needs to think about intelligence and embedding intelligence into everything that they do. And if they're thinking about intelligence, they cannot have these fragmented tools that are disconnected and have that friction. They need to think about data, they need to think about insights, they need to think about intelligence. So the first change that I envision is that the model is going to change from all these fragmented different tools into a data driven AI operating model. That's the first change that I'm envisioning. Second is that AI is going to move from being a novelty to a necessity. And it is becoming more and more obvious that every business need to adopt AI. And roofing is an essential business. Roofing is a business that requires responsiveness. And businesses that are going to adopt AI are going to move faster, run smarter, and have less friction in running the business, enabling them to offer a great experience to their customers and also grow their business. The businesses that don't adopt AI will not fail immediately, but it will run much slower and it will be going through archaic processes. And this is going to impact both top line and bottom line. And when I say AI, it is not just going to be AI in dashboards and AI in analytics, but AI is going to be part of every critical workflows of the business. Customer acquisition, inspection, job site documentation, all of these would require AI into decision making. And I think that is going to be a massive shift that businesses that will adopt AI are going to be much more decisive and stay ahead of the game. The third is that I believe that compliance and safety is going to become a top requirement for the industry, and also the technician experience or the field user experience. A lot of times, there is a compromise between back office and field user experience, and I think that that barrier is going to break. Field user experience is going to be the most critical aspect of the roofing businesses. And last but not the least, I strongly believe that in the next 3 years, roofing businesses are going to be going through this curve of professionalization at scale. They are going to be software companies. And the best roofers are not going to be the ones with the maximum trucks, but they are going to be the ones that have intelligence embedded into every part of their business.
Wow. Yeah. I think we're pretty aligned there. So, wow. Well, it's been awesome. I think that you have a lot of knowledge when it comes to this. I think that's why you guys, you and your team, has also been very successful in rolling out the roofing industry, and adapting to it as fast as you guys have adapted, and has only continued to change. And so, we'll end with a couple rapid fire just questions that I just want to ask you. So, number one, cricket or soccer?
So I'm from this place in India called Kolkata.
Okay.
We all grew up playing soccer, but my passion has been cricket.
Okay. And then Mexican food or Indian food?
Indian food, of course. I grew up on that, but I would never say no to good Mexican food.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. So I will obviously drop the links below to Zuper's website. But if I'm a roofer, or if I'm in the HVAC industry, or if somebody's just watching the video and they're in the in the service based industry, how do they learn more? How do they get connected?
Please get to our website. It's https Zuper, it's zuper.co. That's our website. You can get to our website. click on the demo request and we'll have one of our sales executive get on a demo. You can also reach out directly to me. My email is anansub. It's ANANDSUB at zuper.co.
Wow, how humbling, for you to offer that. So there's not a lot of CEOs that are offering direct help. So you guys heard it. Anand, it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast. Thanks so much for coming down. Thanks so much for being a great leader. Thanks so much for leading from the front. And for number one, thanks for building an amazing software that has also helped our business. And so, other than that, we'll see you guys soon. Hey guys, thanks for watching the Unclouded Podcast. This podcast is proudly sponsored by Zuper. Zuper is our CRM that we use for our roofing operations. Business is hard already. Your systems shouldn't be. And every missed call that you don't answer, it costs you money. And we just recently had a windstorm, and we had Zuper's AI agent answer about 123 calls that we would have missed if we didn't have it. And it ended up turning up into 6 figures of revenue for us. And I had no idea that we were missing that many amount of calls. If you're ready to level up your operations, reach out to Zuper.